Simulation games hit differently on the PS5. Some feel like second lives, others are so detailed they pull you in without you even noticing. I've spent countless hours testing these worlds, tweaking systems, getting lost in their routines, and hence decided to make a tier list. Let's see which simulations earn a place in this list. Let's dive right in. Gran Turismo 7 feels like a true celebration of car culture. The Gran Turismo Cafe led me step by step through races, licenses, and tuning, so I never felt lost as I built my dream garage. What really impressed me is how every car drives differently, and with the PS5's DualSense, I can literally feel the road, the brakes, and the weight of each turn. The dynamic weather and day-night changes make every track look stunning, and the mix of realism and accessibility keeps me coming back for more. The always online requirement and pricey microtransactions are annoying, but when I'm tearing through Trial Mountain, everything else fades away. For me, this is one of the best racing experiences on PS5. Its driving physics and polish are the best, which is why it belongs in Masterpiece. Jurassic World Evolution 3 hooked me almost immediately because it finally feels like the version of this series I always imagined. Managing a dinosaur park still swings between calm planning and chaos, but now the systems are deeper and much smoother. I'm constantly balancing dinosaur needs, researching fossils, breeding new generations, and keeping guests alive, and it all fits together in a satisfying loop. The campaign introduces new mechanics at a comfortable pace, and transforming places like Vegas or Hawaii into dinosaur habitats never gets old. The new breeding options, smarter tools, and quality of life tweaks make building and running the park way easier. Sure, there are a few technical issues, but this is easily the strongest entry yet peaceful until disaster strikes, and that's exactly why I love it. Deep park management and impressive dinosaurs, that's why it goes in excellent. Cities Skylines II left me conflicted. On one hand, it has some really smart ideas, more realistic power systems, resource chains, mixed-use zoning, and weather that actually affects how your city behaves. Building a region where farms, factories, and transit all work together feels great, but the basics just aren't there yet. Terrain issues, ugly lot placement, odd visuals, and constant busy work make my cities look worse unless I spend ages terraforming. It feels less like a polished sequel and more like a promising project that needed more time. I enjoy the foundation, but right now, Cities Skylines II is a fixer-upper with huge potential rather than the city builder I hoped for. Its unmatched city-building depth and flexibility make me put it in Masterpiece. Train SimWorld 4 reminded me why I fell in love with this series in the first place. It turns what should be a routine job into something strangely satisfying. Hitting perfect stops, keeping to speed limits, and watching the scenery roll by feels way more rewarding than it has any right to be. The tutorials do an amazing job teaching each type of train, and driving everything from modern electric engines to old steam locomotives gave me a whole new respect for the craft. It's relaxing, almost zen-like, but also demanding enough to keep me focused. I do wish there were more routes and more variety around the world, but when everything clicks, mastering a train run in Train SimWorld 4 feels incredibly good. This one easily goes to the excellent tier. Transport Fever 2 caught my attention right away with its gorgeous visuals and modern take on the classic transport tycoon formula. It feels familiar, connecting cities, moving goods, and building train lines, but almost too familiar. The problem is, it's just incredibly easy. Within an hour, I was making absurd profits with barely any effort, and the challenge disappeared. I love watching my network grow and seeing my trains glide through detailed landscapes, but the game rarely pushes me to think or plan. It looks great and plays smoothly, but without real pressure or depth, I never felt hooked. For newcomers, it's a fun entry point, but for someone craving a true transport challenge, it left me wanting a lot more. Rewarding transport networks but slower pacing is the reason I am putting in great. PowerWash Simulator 2 feels like slipping right back into a hobby I never planned to love. It doesn't reinvent anything, and honestly, I'm glad it keeps that same relaxing rhythm of blasting grime off vehicles, buildings, and whatever strange objects people dump in my inbox. What it does add are smart quality of life upgrades. Free soap, better tools, easier ways to spot missed dirt, and bigger, more creative cleaning jobs. It's still all about that slow, satisfying flow, no stress, no punishment, just me, water, and filth disappearing one spray at a time. It's absurd how calming it is, but that's exactly why I can see myself sinking hundreds of hours into it again. Perfect execution of a simple, satisfying concept lands it in the excellent tier. Planet Zoo had me fussing over digital animals like they were real. I wasn't just placing fences and paths, I was sculpting terrain, decorating enclosures, and throwing money at every creature the moment they showed the slightest sign of discomfort. The animals feel alive, with behaviors, needs, and quirks that forced me to think carefully about how each habitat should look and function. I'd spend ages perfecting a wolf enclosure, only to realize my finances were in flames because I wanted them to have the perfect cardboard box. The online systems are a bit clumsy, but the level of creativity and detail kept me glued to the screen. It's a zoo sim that turns good intentions into chaos, and I loved every minute of it. Planet Zoo also gets its place in the excellent tier. Ixion surprised me in the best way. I jumped in expecting a simple space city builder, but it turns out to be a gripping survival strategy game where every decision matters. Once I understood how its systems worked managing power, food, research, and morale, I couldn't stop playing. Watching my space station grow from a fragile starting point into a functioning home for humanity felt incredibly rewarding. The freedom to adjust difficulty and tailor the experience is a huge plus, and the story kept me curious as I explored new star systems. If you enjoy smart management games with real stakes, Ixion is absolutely worth your time. It can take a place in the great tier. Everdream Valley feels like slipping into a slow, sunny summer where the only thing on my mind is keeping a farm running, even if I'm technically a kid doing all the work while the grandparents supervise from a safe distance. There's a ton to do. Planting crops, herding animals, fixing fences, cooking meals, and even stepping into dream sequences where I play as dogs, bees, or sheep. Nothing is stressful here. Animals don't die, crops don't spoil, and time moves at a relaxed pace. The map is big, the vibe is cozy, and it's easy to lose hours chasing small tasks. It does get repetitive, and some objectives feel unclear, but as a chilled-out farming sandbox, Everdream Valley scratches that peaceful, pastoral itch surprisingly well. It goes to the good. RoadCraft had me convinced it would scratch the same itch SnowRunner did. Meticulous driving, tough terrain, and the thrill of pulling off a job without flipping a truck. Instead, it feels like someone took the framework of a great sim and drained out everything that gave it stakes. I can clear roads, build bridges, haul debris, and operate all kinds of heavy machinery, but nothing ever pushes back. There's no fuel to manage, no real risk of failure, and the objectives feel more like chores than challenges. The tools are cool, and the idea of shaping the terrain is genuinely fun, but without consequences or pressure, it never clicks. RoadCraft isn't a bad idea, it just feels like a toy box pretending to be a simulation, and I wanted so much more out of it. That's why I rank it in the good tier as well. Planet Coaster 2 feels like someone took the first game, cranked every creative tool to 11, and then handed me the keys. The customization is almost absurd terrain tools, modular pieces, and now full water attractions that completely change how a park can look and flow. Designing coasters and splash rides is smoother and more intuitive than ever, and I kept losing hours perfecting loops, flumes, and ridiculous entrances. But once again, the management side might as well be asleep. Money pours in, staff barely matters, and the challenge evaporates fast. Even so, the sheer freedom to build the park of my dreams, ride every creation in first person, and sculpt entire landscapes makes Planet Coaster 2 the most powerful theme park sandbox I've ever played. Just don't expect it to test your business skills. Amazing creation tools, but lighter management depth is the reason it goes in great. Hardspace Shipbreaker shouldn't be fun. It's literally a job about dismantling old spaceships, risking death with every oxygen leak, fuel line cut, or explosive decompression. But once I got the hang of it, tearing vessels apart became this weird, addictive art form. Every ship is a puzzle I can solve my own way, grappling parts loose, slicing hulls with lasers, or launching whole sections into the furnace with well-placed tethers. The story about corporate exploitation hits harder than I expected, but it's the freedom to experiment, fail spectacularly, and refine my approach that kept me hooked. Breaking ships shouldn't be satisfying. Yet here I am, happily dismantling another one. I'll rank it in the great tier. SteamWorld Build surprised me with how well its split personality works. On the surface, I'm running a quirky Wild West town full of steam-powered robots, laying roads, supplying services, and upgrading my little metal citizens. But beneath that, I'm digging into a massive underground mine, uncovering resources, old tech, and occasionally things I probably shouldn't have woken up. The loop is simple but satisfying. The town fuels the mine fuels the town, and before I know it, I'm building traps, turrets, and machines to keep everything running. It's not the deepest city builder out there, but its style, charm, and dual-layer design kept me hooked longer than I expected. A fun weekend adventure, even if it doesn't beg to be replayed forever. Fun, layered city building without heavy depth is the base it lands in the great tier. I didn't expect a game about running a dingy laundromat to hijack my free time, but Arcade Paradise did exactly that. What starts as a simple routine, washing clothes, clearing trash, fixing machines, slowly morphs into a full-blown obsession as I funnel every dollar into building my own arcade empire. Cabinets arrive, customers pile in, and suddenly the backroom is louder than the spin cycle. Each mundane chore is a minigame, and everyone pushes me closer to unlocking new machines and expanding the space. It's repetitive, but in the best way. There's always one more job to do, one more upgrade to buy, one more game to try. Before I knew it, hours had vanished, and I was grinning like an addict feeding quarters into my own arcade. Because it has limited depth, I prefer to put it in the good tier. City builders aren't usually my go-to genre. I dip into them now and then when I want something calmer than the usual gunfire and explosions, but they rarely hold my attention for long. The Wandering Village changed that faster than I expected. Before I knew it, I wasn't just placing buildings, I was managing an entire settlement perched on the back of a massive, lumbering creature called Onbu, watching it trek through deserts, forests, and poisoned wastelands like some kind of gentle, wandering god. Creative moving world concept with solid survival systems is the reason it fits in great. Expedition's a MudRunner game, feels like a rough but rewarding road trip where every mission tests my patience and problem solving. I'm constantly adjusting four-wheel drive, lowering tire pressure, and using tools like anchors and echo sounders just to push through deserts, rocky slopes, and muddy hills. When everything lines up, finally climbing a brutal path feels incredible. But the game also fights me in ways that don't feel fair. Its physics can be unpredictable. Rocks grab my vehicle for no reason, and texture pop-ins kill the immersion. Some early missions drag on far longer than they should, turning the adventure into a slow grind. Still, once the upgrades kick in and the harder missions start showing up, the game finds its rhythm and becomes frustrating, rewarding, and strangely addictive. In the end, it's a messy, off-road challenge that holds back its own potential. Also has repetitive mission design, that's why it goes in mediocre. Nothing beats the moment a new Formula One game drops, and F123 hooked me the second I hit the track. I could immediately feel how much smoother and more responsive the cars were. Last year's awkward mix of understeer into corners and sudden oversteer on exit always kept me tense, but here, the handling finally clicks. Every turn feels like the car understands what I want, and instead of wrestling it around the circuit, I'm actually driving with confidence and control. It's the first time in a while that the series has made me grin mid-lap. Fast, precise racing with strong career systems and elite driving feel push me to put in the excellent tier. Teardown instantly tapped into something chaotic and satisfying in me. The moment I smashed through my first door instead of opening it properly, I knew this game was my kind of trouble. Every mission hands me a simple goal: steal something, destroy something, get out, but how I achieve it is entirely up to me. One minute, I'm chipping away at a wall with a sledgehammer, and the next, I'm driving a dump truck straight through a building to shave seconds off my escape route. Planning the perfect path, experimenting with tools, and watching entire structures crumble never gets old. It's messy, clever, and wildly creative, pure digital catharsis in voxel form. Teardown easily gets a space in the excellent tier. Chef Life caught my attention because I've always loved cooking games, and this one finally lets me run an actual restaurant instead of just mashing buttons over a stove. After creating my chef and learning the ropes, I found myself juggling recipes, ingredients, suppliers, and equipment upgrades like a real culinary manager. Cooking feels surprisingly hands-on, with quick actions for flipping steaks, timing fries, and plating dishes just right. The presentation isn't exactly Michelin level. Some menus look rough, and the visuals feel a bit dated. But the loop of perfecting recipes, earning money, and improving my restaurant kept pulling me back. It's niche, but for anyone who loves the kitchen, it hits the spot. Chef Life belongs to the great tier.